before I say, oh, there it is. Now I can say
Okay,
all the
yep.
important
Yeah,
stuff.
I had to
Great.
choose between computer or cloud.
Thanks. What did you choose?
I chose computer.
Wow. See, I would
I,
have chosen cloud because I'm always worried I'm going to run out of hard drive space.
I like clouds
Digital
are
media
sometimes harder
library.
to download, but I think that is smart. I'll have to keep that in mind now. This is a work computer, there's plenty still on it, but yeah, it's what I actually choose because I've known sharing with people and downloading. Yes, this is what we're debating at the beginning of a recording. This is great.
I'm a digital media librarian, and I think when we're talking about video making, this is actually a really relevant piece because the video that we're recording right now is in a larger scope of the video that you would then turn in for your Metaskill Challenge entry, an asset. Before I even get started, that's the word of the day. Who can tell me what an asset is in the context of a video? And I'm just going to stare at the screen until someone talks. I already gave you the answer. Someone do it. I can wait for a whole hour.
It's
This
the
is super
video.
important. Go ahead.
Is it the videos themselves, like the set of videos that you put together to make your edited final video?
Sorta. So, like, let's say that this video was called Jason Visits the Metaskill Challenge People. One of our assets could be this Zoom call. And then another of our assets could be what? What else could I add to this to make it a compelling video?
Background music or something?
Yep, music is another asset. What? So there's another word. Let's say I wanted to cut to a different picture, but use um, what I'm talking about right now. What would that other picture be in addition to an asset? What is that called when we cut to a different picture while there's other different video going on underneath it? Anyone know? B-roll. You may have heard that before, but asset's the important part. When Scott, when this is over and something happens on Scott's computer, what is the asset? What is the form of the asset that is this video? What form is it in? It's so simple it's hard to actually answer it.
MP4?
Sure, but what even in a larger sense is an MP4? It's a computer file. Like assets in the digital world are files. They are audio files, video files, image files. So you could take stuff that you have on your phone already. You probably have voice memos. You probably have pictures of your cat or dog or friends. You probably have video, right? Those are all files. And in a digital video editor, those files just get arranged and then played at the same time, mixed in order for your video to work. That's the spoiler. So, like, the hardest part about doing a video making workshop is that each of you, especially now, are going to be in your own spaces using equipment that you may or may not already have in a very subjective way to make your final product, right? So, those of you who are interested in video, who doesn't in this room have a smartphone? Who does not have a smartphone? Just put your hand up. Cool. So we're 100% smartphoned. Whose smartphone is over 10 years old? Whose smartphone is over 5 years old? Okay, so all of your smartphones shoot in HD. Most of them shoot in 4K. What the hell is HD or 4K? Can anyone tell me? You see it at Costco and Walmart and wherever else you're going. What is HD? What does that mean?
Is it the resolution, like the overall, like 1080p and 720p and all
Yeah.
that?
So what does 1080p mean? That's great. Do you know what it means? It is the resolution, but what does 1080p mean?
1080 pixels.
Right. P stands for pixels. So if you're looking at a screen right now, and I know you are because I can see all your eyes, you are looking at probably a high definition, depending on your computer, screen that is at least 1,920 pixels wide, 1920, by 1,080 pixels tall, 1080. That is high definition. That's like the baseline of high definition. Anyone guess based on that what 4K is? It's 4 times that. So if you have a 4K TV, it can give you 4,096 pixels wide, and then whatever 4 times 1080 usually the same, doesn't really matter. The point is your phones shoot in the same resolution as the cameras that shot Transformers. Okay? So like, first of all, Transformers sucks. As a kid who grew up in the 80s, terrible. I'm so sad that it happened. Lots of people like it, looks awesome. Your phone can shoot in that same resolution. Okay? So if you're worried, if you're making a video and you're worried about the equipment that you may have to capture it, you already own it. You've told me you've already owned it. Okay? You just have to make sure to interface with your particular camera to make sure it's shooting in at least high definition. Everybody cool with that? Okay, you can go higher if you want, but frankly, I think I have a 4K TV, and I have never seen 4K content on it because it's so big. Like, even I don't even know. I'm sure I can probably rent something from Amazon that has it, but 1080 is mostly what we're looking at. 1920 by 1080. Okay. What kind of video looks good if it's shot this way? In what world do we encounter video that is shot holding your phone this way? There's a couple.
Social media.
Yeah, specifically like Instagram stories. Um, I'm not sure. Is TikTok vertical? I think it might be. It can be, right? Okay. The other world that stuff is shot vertically in, there's two more. So we've got social media. Perfect. If you're going to make a movie that is going to be encountered only by people in social media, shooting this way, it's totally cool. Like, or if part of your movie is supposed to look like you're looking at a phone, awesome. Like everyone will know what you're doing. Another world that vertical video lives in is the world of the fast food menu. Next time you're at a fast food restaurant, check out how the monitors that show the menu are situated above a counter. If you want to make a movie that exists on a fast food menu, perfect. Great. Go ahead and go vertical. The other world it lives in is terribly shot movies. Like when you see newscasts of people's cell phones vertically, and then you have to add that dumb like colored ghost situation in the back to fill up the width of your screen. I'm sorry, unless you're making fun of that, don't do it. Just don't. I mean, there's artistic reasons to do it by all means. But pointing it out, you got to be aware that it's going to look bad on the majority of our screens. So you got to consider your audience when you're thinking about making a movie, right? I'm sort of just talking at you right now to hit the major points, about which I will send you a little bit of follow up with, and then I'm going to go into a little bit of how the libraries can help you, and then figure out how you can, if you want to do this kind of work, do it on your own with some resources that we already have, including humans like me. But the reason I'm pointing out these two things, that you already have the equipment and that you should shoot horizontally, is because those are the two main reasons people fail at videos at NC State University. Okay? They either think they can't because they don't have the tools, and then when they do it, they shoot it this way, and then they open up whatever video editor they use, and everything looks bad. So countless times people have stopped using video projects as in their classes because they get bad results. Thing is, you can make your video look pretty great if you follow a few rules. Shoot horizontally. 2, make sure that you are confident in using your camera with some pretty easy to remember like rules about how to place a camera that all stem from this. Okay, those are going to be dependent on your project, and I'm going to share some resources that'll help you think about framing and things like that. The third thing is audio, and that one's a little bit more difficult, and we're going to talk about that at length a little bit later as we get into this. But I'm going to back up even further now. I'm Jason. I can help you in the Meta Skill Challenge or any time during your career at NC State. I manage 13 students whose whole job it is to help people make media projects. I manage 2 full-time people whose whole job it is to help people make media. And when I say that, I mean video, audio, and inside of that, podcasts, movies, music, posters, Now, I was called an expert. I suppose I have some expertise. I prefer to call all of us practitioners because we practice this stuff. So last point before I move into some really exciting slides, the practice sucks. No one wants to do it, and it's the only way to get good at stuff. So your first video, if you've never made one, is probably not going to be perfect. It's going to be awesome if you finish it, though. We do this thing at the libraries called critical making, where we believe that the act of making something is more important often than the finished product. Like, you want to finish it, but the act of doing it is where you actually learn how to be a practitioner, which is the only way that anyone ever becomes a quote unquote expert. And I would argue that anybody who says they're an expert has a lot to learn. Anybody who is said that they are an expert will probably think, yeah, but I could continue to practice. So that's exciting. Like, things change in the world of media a lot. But what we're going to talk about over the next few minutes is how, even since the dawn of movies, there are a few things that have not changed at all. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop there for a second. I'd love to hear, those of you who are here because you're interested in video making. I'd love to hear what you're interested in doing. Does anyone have an idea right now? Like, is there, do you have a plan? Do you have a script? Do you have any ideas at all? And if you don't, that's cool too. I got some head shaking. Anybody made videos before?
I've made a little bit of videos before, and I'm interested in doing stuff to compile like work that I've done in video form to put it on YouTube just so that I have it.
Sweet.
And I've been interested in trying to start to make a video, and I've got a bunch of footage. I'm struggling with some of the software that I'm using because I have a Windows computer, so I don't have iMovie or anything. So some of the free software doesn't have the features that I like to use, because I started like with Premiere just on one of my friend's computers, and going back to some of those other softwares, it's not as easy because I'm losing all those features. So I was wondering what you had in terms of like editing software.
Yeah, well, you have at your disposal the answer to all your questions is DaVinci Resolve. This will be in the list of resources I send to you. Maybe not tonight, but probably more like on Monday or sometime this weekend. DaVinci Resolve, I like it more than Premiere. It's free and it works on both platforms.
Wow.
I hate Adobe. I'm just like, I've gone completely 180 on Adobe. I think they are a bunch of money hungry jackasses who make it really hard for people to make really accessible work, because they don't offer every student a discount in a way that they should. They're a subscription based company, so you're going to end up spending a ton of money over the course of your life in order to have this, when there are plenty of free and other options that are just as powerful. So I am very familiar with Premiere, and that is still an industry standard. DaVinci Resolve is a free video editor for both Macs and PCs that is as good, if not better, than Adobe Premiere. And if you choose to buy the studio version of it, it's $300 and it's one time. So as a librarian, I got into librarianship because I'm interested in access. I want everybody to be able to tell their story. I want everybody to be able to participate in a world where we make things and our voice matters. And I want people to not have to pay $20 a month for an unstable Adobe suite that, we're often forced to use because we're told it's an industry standard. But I'm also here to tell you, no one knows what you made that video in. I've seen some great movies made in iMovie. I've heard some great records made in GarageBand. I've made some great records in GarageBand. Like, who knows? No one asks you once they hear it, right? But there is something to be said about getting to know some features. And I think if you've moved from Premiere and then you're stuck with like whatever awful PC version there was, DaVinci Resolve is your answer, and it's free. I highly recommend it. So
I'm on their website now. Yeah, that's super helpful.
Yeah, thanks, man. Parker, I'll tell you, Blackmagic, the company that makes it, is awesome. They've always been, and this is just for everybody's. If you really get into video making, they're a well-priced prosumer brand that makes stuff that's accessible and works really well. It has a huge community of users, and so them offering this really powerful video editor for free is awesome. If you've never made movies before, I will be, and you have a Mac, I will always say just start with iMovie, because it is the basis of everything that you need. It's super powerful, often hidden behind I think they think are user-friendly features that make people think it's for kids, but it's not. They're all modifiable. But if you don't have iMovie, or if you want to move into like a more what you think might be professional, DaVinci Resolve is the way to go. And I'm sorry for talking smack about Adobe. I know that Photoshop's cool, like, but really, I'm just so sick of their money.
Oh yeah, it's
hungry.
cool, but
Yeah.
it's ridiculously expensive. Yeah.
It's so inaccessible. And like we've been fighting with OIT at NC State to just try and figure out how can we offer this to all of our students. We have lots of design professors who force people to use Adobe products. And I don't think that they've even thought that there might be a competitor out there. So one thing that I can help you with at any time in your career is help you find competitively priced or free programs that can do anything that those other really expensive ones can. Okay, that especially in COVID times that you can just put on your computer and use there. Okay, so now this is just turning into like a motivational speaker thing. You can do this. Okay, but yeah, so that's a great question. DaVinci Resolve is your answer. Probably answer all of your questions, and it's awesome. Who knows what LinkedIn Learning is? Great. Who doesn't know what LinkedIn Learning is? Cool. All right, we'll talk about that in a minute. That will help. And what year was the first motion picture recorded and then shown to people? Do you know? I don't either. I think it was like 1871. But it was like it was in the late 19th century. It was the Thomas Edison Company, and just to drive home the hold this vertically, or I'm sorry, horizontally. Even Thomas Edison's movies that were made that were like 16 seconds long and made in the late 19th century were shot horizontally. And the principles are the same. You need to have a place that is lit, and I don't mean that in like the 2012 way. I mean like the lighting. Okay? So like simple lighting techniques, real quick. I'm just going to say these out loud and then we're going to go through some slides. It is easier to shoot movies outside than it is to shoot movies inside. It is easier to shoot movies outside when the sun is out. Never point your camera towards the sun. The sun and your lights should always be behind your camera, and natural light will always be easier to deal with than interior light. If you have to shoot inside, set up your camera so that the window is behind you or to the side in order to light people appropriately. Using overheads or lamps are cool and can add like a gloomy or scary effect, but bad lighting is often what makes videos look bad. Good lighting can be achieved by letting the sun or the sun behind clouds or windows in a house take care of you. So simple concept so far. You can do it. Shoot horizontally. And as far as lighting goes, you'll have more success outside, and make sure the sun is not in front of you, but behind your camera, lighting you from the back. Okay, if you have to do interior lighting, we can talk. I'm going to share some LinkedIn Learning resources for lighting. You can even borrow lighting kits from the libraries. You all know who Stanley Kubrick is? Or maybe you've heard of Stanley Kubrick. The Shining, 2001, Full Metal Jacket. Stanley Kubrick was an auteur who made movies very seldomly, and they were always really good. And in 1973, I think he decided he was never going to use interior lighting again. I think after 2001, he was done with it. So any Stanley Kubrick movie you watch after 2001 is all lit with the sun or with natural lighting that occurred inside of a building using windows, except for on set pieces like The Shining. He just hated it. He said it made everything look like a movie. He wanted to shoot real life. So know that lighting is something you can worry about too. Just as a little bit of an experienced person who's been asked questions a lot. I think a lot of people, what gets in the way of them making movies is they're worried about tools. They're worried about doing something wrong. I'm going to kind of negate everything I just said. If your content is good, you can do whatever you want. And so we're going to talk about scripts and how important it is to plan for your media project. But if you follow those rules of shoot horizontally, use good lighting, and then we'll talk about audio, your product will at least look and sound fairly professional, maybe enough for you to feel like you're actually on the way to somewhere better. Okay? Cool. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else made videos? Parker has. Anyone else? Yeah. What have you made?
So over the summer, I had a passion project to start a YouTube channel, but since school started, I really haven't been able to make any new content and put it on there.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, this stuff takes, to your point, this takes time. It takes time to do this. But that time is often in the planning and then sharing stages. The actual recording won't take that much time if you have it planned out. So I'm just going to share my desktop real quick with you. And I'm not going to go over this whole media orientation with you. I just want to gloss over some things the libraries has, and then really get into some like specific things. And I want you to interrupt me anytime. Okay. Like I'm just going to go for it here. The point again, the point of this is I've given you some tips. I'm going to give you some more, but now you know me. And I hope that now you know I'm a librarian. I work at both libraries, both main libraries. I in typical semesters I run the studios that we have, the 11 studios that we have. Um, but I'm always around. Like I will always answer your emails. If I can't do it, someone else will. Like don't I felt really lucky growing up that when I was 14, I had older friends who were interested in music recording and they let me borrow stuff without me worrying about me breaking it, and they encouraged me to do it and they taught me how to do it. But like I would have never done that on my own had I not had the encouragement, and that changed my life. I started making media when I was a 14-year-old. I put out my first record when I was 15. So like not that it was good, but I did it. So like I wouldn't have been able to do it without the help of other people. And so I want to be someone in your life that can fulfill that role. So does the whole of the libraries. We're here to be like your older friend who can like say that sounds cool, here's some stuff you can use to make it. Does that seem fair? You're paying us to do that, and so you're never bothering us when you ask us to help you to get a project done. And I feel lucky that I get to do it. I feel lucky that I get to do it uh, as a media librarian, since it's stuff that I love. Okay. Can you all see the slide that I just put on the screen? Excellent. So in a typical semester, we would have all these spaces open. Of course, it is far from typical. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about spaces, but mostly I'm going to talk to you about services. So, a quick, just now that you've known me for 30 minutes, these are pictures of me to let you know me a little bit more. Okay. On the top left. That's a picture of me from, I don't know what year, 2011, standing in front of a plaster wall in Nashville, Tennessee, on tour with my band Magnolia Electric Company. Must have been 2010. And then below that is a picture of our last show that we ever played in Paris, which was was in 2009. That was what I did for a living from 2001 to 2010. I played music for a living, and we recorded music for a living, and became the band's sort of de facto archivist, which got me into librarianship. On the right side, you can see what happened to us when we moved to Raleigh. So in 2013, I moved to Raleigh to take this job. On the top, you'll see a picture of me and my partner. We started a bakery in Raleigh because we figured we'd stay here for a while. She came from the world of information technology and music and wanted to make food, which is very much like making media. And I help. So that's us standing behind our counter, happy that we have a bakery, kind of. I don't know if I will never encourage anyone to open a food business. But please come and enjoy it. It's still open after 4 years. On the bottom right, this is a trust building exercise. I'd like to show you a picture of what happens when you trip over the drums in the first 30 seconds of a song playing in a basement in 2012 in Bloomington, Indiana. I just felt, that's me on the ground, almost having brained myself on that very sharp PA system. I'm showing you this because it's important to know that you can recover from mistakes. Like I did not die. My band still exists. I also like stuff. And luckily everything makes sense, but it's also I just found the picture. I thought it was funny. Okay. So typically we have a bunch of spaces in the library. All of them are closed this semester, but we dedicate a whole section of my department to media help. Okay, in DHL we have the digital media lab, where I know one of you has worked with me before, has several studios, and also walk-up media making machines. They do exist this semester. If you are brave enough to go to the library, we have put 4 of those machines in the Learning Commons, so you can access the Adobe Suite if you need to. For example, you can just ask at the Ask Us desk, help find those. Um, there's also some at Hunt Library if you go there. By the way, we're at about 10% of where we usually are with capacity at the libraries. I feel pretty safe when I go. I would not encourage anyone to feel unsafe about going anywhere, but we've been doing a really good job of keeping things clean and distanced. So if you need to go to a building, these spaces are for you, okay? If you don't, contact me and I can get you whatever you need wherever you are, okay? The music booths and rooms are closed right now. I know we're talking about videos. I have a problem with the name of these spaces. They shouldn't be called music booths and rooms. They should be called media rooms, because these are the perfect spaces to like finish up your editing project. So if you did want, for example, Parker, if you wanted to use the Adobe Suite when the rooms are open, we always have these in our rooms, and like these are rooms you can borrow for like 4 hours at a time and privately work on editing, and then have a nice set of speakers and some sound stuff there too. But you also have all this stuff at home. So remember that even though we have it set up for you, that's the biggest boon. That's the biggest good thing about the music spaces is we pay for some software, and but it's set up for you, so you don't have to spend all that time doing it. We have video studios too. None of them are open. Okay, what you can get from us is some technology, which I'll share with you in a minute. We also offer software, but as we talked about already, that software is not necessarily easy to get to right now because a lot of it is expensive and locked up in our buildings. Those of you who have Macs will know that you already have GarageBand and iMovie on your Macs. Those are perfect softwares to make good videos with. And so you would use iMovie to put all your video and audio assets together to produce a video. You could use GarageBand to record um, your voiceovers if you have them, to edit together your background music in a way. I will say this one important tip is don't you can't well, I'm all for like using workarounds. It's probably better to use an audio editor to edit your audio than to edit your audio inside of a video editor. Okay, what I'm going to talk about in a minute is how to get all your assets in order so that you can just put them in your video editor as if you're following a recipe, which will make everything a little bit easier. Okay, but don't be afraid of free software. GarageBand and Audacity, whether you believe it or not, record at the same quality as Pro Tools. There's no quality difference at all. It's all about the user interface and certain like bonus things. Same thing is true with Final Cut or Premiere versus iMovie. They're all recording in high definition. You know, there's just certain things that you can't do in iMovie that you can do in Premiere. Most of those things are things you don't have to do to make a good video. Sometimes if you're like maybe a little more advanced, you want to do something else, that's great. But like iMovie does great green screening. If you wanted to use green screening, it's perfect. The titling's not perfect, although it's getting better. But yeah, you can do most everything with iMovie. The bottom of this slide is what I want you to see, the community of people that use these spaces. I'm so interested in fostering a positive community of media makers. Like, I want you to know that you have a place to do this. I'm so excited that you're excited about learning another skill, and to like, and basically make something awesome that maybe you haven't done before, because you're welcome to do it. All of us, if we all controlled our story more with media, we would be telling truths to people that need to hear them probably more often. I think everybody loves, or whether they love it or not, everybody deserves to hear the truth. And if you know how to make media, you are going to be able to communicate with people in a from a far bigger stage than if you are relying on classroom papers or just internal work with your social network. Like, we hear a lot, especially in an election year, we hear a lot about the bubbles that we're inside of in social media. Consider the fact that if you made a movie about your life at state or for this challenge, think about how the people in your life might actually watch that versus them reading a research paper that you wrote in class. Like, my parents probably had no idea what I did in college. But as soon as I started making records, they were listening to them. Because that's just the thing that we do. We're all interested in music, we're all interested in movies. So this is a great way to tell your truth, okay? So remember that. We want you to be here doing that. We want you to feel like you're part of it because you totally are. We're not talking about reserving spaces because we don't need to. I do want to talk about this. I love this picture of us, like three of us trying to help one person. 7 days a week, 4 to 8 p.m., you can go to this link, and I'll send you these slides. You can go to this link and get into a Zoom room. On the left over there, you see two fellow students. One is Isaac, one is Charlotte. Charlotte's actually studying abroad right now, but still helping people virtually make media projects. One is me, and then one is a guy named Jordan. Jordan dropped in to get some podcast help. And we ended up moving into a breakout room and working one-on-one together. But like 4 to 8 p.m., you could just drop into the Zoom room and meet a person who can help you with your media problems right then. Let's say you're making a movie. Let's say that you don't know how to set your iPhone up in HD and none of the online stuff is helping you. Drop in. Someone has done that before and they can just walk you through it virtually. It's a human there to help you. This is free. It's 7 days a week, virtual room. You can turn off your video if you want. We would just love to help you. Okay. Tech consultations, which I'm not going to go into too deeply, but are the most powerful way to get help. As you can see on the screen, under at the library's website, you can just request one of these, and it's basically a one-on-one meeting, similar to this, except scheduled on your time at any time during the day that works out for me or someone like me to help you finish your movie. Okay? Don't be afraid. If you run into problems, if you don't know how to start, if you don't know what a script is, like any of these things, that's what I'm here to help you with. Now let's really quickly talk about LinkedIn Learning. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a second. Those of you who know, what have you done with LinkedIn Learning before? If you know, or if you've done anything while I pull it up.
I'm taking a digital imaging class because I'm an art and design major. So I've used LinkedIn to like watch tutorials about Photoshop and stuff like that.
Has it been helpful?
Yes, definitely. Like some of the tools are buried in Photoshop, I feel like sometimes. So like showing the explicit steps to get there is really helpful for me.
Can you describe, like, what's it like? I'm going to show it in a second, but what's LinkedIn Learning like?
I mean, it's just like kind of tutorial videos. Like people, in my experience, typically share their screen and like you can see where they're clicking to get exactly where you need to go.
Do
I
you,
don't know.
are there features? I'm going to see if you like this as much as I do. Is there a feature that allows you to get to what you need faster in LinkedIn Learning?
Um, there's a search bar, but I don't know if there's a like specific feature. There's not one that I know of.
Well, let me show you something that might help you. Okay, so Karen, is it Caroline or Carolyn, by the way?
Caroline.
Caroline. So Caroline is right. LinkedIn Learning, which used to be called lynda.com, but then was bought by our favorite social network that makes everybody not feel like an imposter, LinkedIn. You don't have to have a LinkedIn account to use it, and it's free for you to use at NC State. So I'll send a link about how to get into it. It is a series of tutorial videos that are going to be far more helpful to me. Like my job as a media librarian is to say, yes, you can do it. I'm here to help. And then it's to give you a list of things that will help you specifically based on the project you want to make. So I can give you those basics, hold your camera horizontally, shoot with the sun behind your back, whatever. But like it really, as others have noticed who are sitting in this room with us right now, it's not until you get down to the nitty gritty of it that you really can know what you need. And that kind of stinks to say, but like it's super easy for me to help make a list, and LinkedIn Learning is always on that list. So let me share my screen real quick and show you what I mean. I'm going to play some sound too, so I'm sorry, it's probably going to be annoying, but I'm here at the Photoshop 2020 Essential Training, the basics. Okay, you see this interface, everybody? So Caroline, one thing I was pointing at is check out the side on the left here. Unlike YouTube, which will occasionally give you little dots in the timeline to tell you that something's different, this gives you full lists of chapters so that you can just jump to the chapter that you think you need help with. So if it's Photoshop and you don't know how to do a multiple undo in the history panel, you can just click that. And and by the way, I'm sorry, I'm showing
One of the most
video over
important
this.
features in Photoshop is the ability to undo whatever you just did.
They're very true. Okay, so I'm not going to make you watch video, but so I just went to that part. This is the part that I think is amazing. If I click transcript, I can read the video, and then I can just find where I need to go and click it, and it'll take me to that part of the video. Does that make sense? So even more powerful than that, I can search the transcript to find exactly what I need. So if I don't understand what layers are, I can click layers, and it'll take me to the part of
With
this
filters
video
and adjustment layers. But as you can see,
that is about layers. Make sense? You can search the whole video or just segments of it. This is super powerful. So let me just show you a couple things that might be helpful for you. Lighting, photography, video lighting. There we go. So if you're interested in video lighting, I choose this. This one's great. Video foundations, cameras and shooting. If you want to get more into the weeds, you can, or you can just use your phone. Okay. What about DaVinci Resolve? Check it out. Here is a pretty new 4-hour tutorial of DaVinci Resolve. You could probably get away with watching 30 minutes of it to get started. Any software, any hardware, any skill, all of them are focused here. And I always say this, and if you've been in a session with me before, you've heard me say this before. YouTube is the flea market of information videos, right? Flea markets are awesome, but they're also full of crap. Like, you have to dig through a bunch of crap to find the diamonds in the rough. And sometimes that crap is really cool and you'll get lost in it, which all of us do. But if you're looking specifically for someone to help you with the video, you may have to listen to Uncle Clausen talk about his divorce before he talks about how to use the green screen in iMovie. You know what I mean? I know you've encountered this in YouTube videos before. LinkedIn Learning, it's just practitioners getting straight to the point. Okay, cool. All right, so we've done LinkedIn Learning. I want to quickly talk about tech lending, and then we're going to get to the real deal, the thing I'm here to tell you. All right, tech lending. We check out the things that you need. Here, let me show you what you need. If you're going to use your phone camera, you should either buy or go to the library and borrow one of these. What is this? Look at him. If you can look at my window. Anybody know what this is? Let me show you. I am putting my phone in this tripod, which I can then connect to the bottom of a camera tripod, or to the top of a camera tripod, and now I have a professional camera setup. Make sense? This is a tripod adapter for cell phones. Any of your smartphones will work with it, okay? You can look on my screen too now and see that we check out tripods, we check out other kinds of cameras. If you don't have a camera or a smartphone you like, you can borrow one from us, okay? The way you do it is go to the library's website, look for borrow technology, click that, and then request what you want. You do have to come in and pick it up. If you need it mailed to you, I might be able to help, but just let me know. But if you can go to DHL, we can also just check it out to you there. Okay. Here we go. This is it. This is the spoiler alert and also the end. The steps for making many media projects, from least difficult to most difficult. All right, before I even start, what do you all think the most difficult step of a media project is? Anybody have an idea? What's scaring you the most about maybe making a video? Maybe you're not scared. What do you think is going to be your biggest barrier, I guess, is a good question. Tallest, maybe not biggest, but tallest barrier. Hey, look at that. In the chat, we have the right answer. Yes. So, spoiler alert, that is the hardest part. So, the rest of the stuff's easy. Let's go back. So, planning and scripts are the most difficult part of anything. So, let's talk about this real quick. So, from least difficult to most difficult. Least difficult step is editing. That may sound crazy if you've never edited before, but it may take practice, but it is simply a matter of clicking and dragging and following your own instructions from the more difficult steps. In other words, if you've never used a video, who's not used a video editor? Has anybody not used a video editor before? Raise your hand. Okay, so those of you who have, you know that it's just like word processing. You're basically just moving assets around, which are just files, and putting them in an order that then plays as your movie goes along. It's easier to demonstrate by just doing it. And before we're done, I'll make a quick video just to show you what I mean. Editing's easy. Like it can be intimidating, but as long as you have the right tools, and I think iMovie or DaVinci Resolve are the right tools for editing. So iMovie for Mac, if you're not super familiar with it, DaVinci Resolve for Mac or PC if you want something a little more advanced. The more difficult step after that is recording and capturing. So we've already talked about that part. Like, I think this is what gets in the way of everybody. Hold your camera, on its side, get a tripod, pictures with appropriate lighting. Audio is difficult. I really think that audio in videos is what makes or breaks a video. And so if you want help with that, it's really hard to go into that. Like that should be its own session. It's just audio and videos. But know that if you're recording somebody outside, it's going to sound bad. Like so, avoid recording someone outside. If you're going to have talking in your video, either record it separately, um, or make sure that when someone is talking, that you're in a room where you can hear them. The libraries does check out external audio recorders, and you also have a phone with a voice memo. So, like, let's say you're using your phone and recording an actor, you can ask that actor to use their voice memos and just have the phone somewhere near them. Any idea about how, if you're recording from two different sources, how would you easily sync up the sound that you record from, say, your friend's phone with the sound you recorded from your phone? Any ideas? They're both recording the same sound, right? Like if I've got a camera at the back of a room, but then you have your friend's camera sitting right next to them on voice memos, what do you think you could do in editing to make sure that they line up? This is my favorite part about making videos, by the way. All right, think about your favorite, or maybe I don't know if you would have
Like a
these.
marker, maybe, or like an
A
audio
marker,
spike.
right? Yeah. So think of like what kind of marker? What do you mean? Can you give us a description of what you mean?
Like you clap into the mic or something so that it spikes.
Yes. So you clap into the mic. Think about like outtakes on DVDs or Blu-rays that you have of people, like the behind the scenes thing where they have the clapper board. What's happening there is that snap that has the scene on it is allowing the person who's shooting on film, that often doesn't have sound associated with it, to sync up both the action of the clap and the spike in the waveform that you get on the recording device, so that the two things match up as they go along. If you've ever wondered how, like, when you're watching, like, I don't know, like Scorsese does a lot, like a scene where people are like 100 feet away, and you can hear them perfectly. They have synced up the sound that way when they started. So for you, that means putting your camera in the back of the room and having another secondary sound source, having both of them recording, and then either you clapping or having them clap, so that the waveform spike, and I think you all know what I mean when I say that, but like you'd see that in the waveform in your editor, so that there's a spike in both your camera track and the external audio track. And then you just line them up in your editor, and they just work well all the way down. Then you delete the camera audio track and you only use the close mic track. You can use that camera audio track if you want a little bit like room ambience. And I would highly recommend using something like GarageBand to do that lining up and then pulling it into iMovie. But you don't have to. You could totally do that part in your video editor. It's actually a lot easier because you have the visual representation. The cool thing about all these editors too is that you can export bits of your assets into other forms in order to edit them better somewhere else. So you could do like a rough cut of your video and then export the audio only, and use something like Audacity, which is pretty awesome, to apply like a standard EQ to make your voices sound better, or add some reverb or whatever, and then just put it right back in. Okay?
I do hate to interrupt, but I unfortunately have a class pretty soon, so I think I'm
Yeah,
gonna
no
have to head
problem.
out. This has
Parker,
been really helpful, though.
I'm glad. I'll send
Yeah.
you some information. We're almost
Perfect.
done too, and I think we've hit the nails. But
Yeah.
let me know if you need any help. Okay?
I will. Thank you. I've just downloaded DaVinci Resolve, and I'm going to look into. I'm learning it, and it looks awesome. So thank you
Yeah,
so
man.
much.
I hope you love it.
Yeah, I'm
All right,
sure
see
I
you
will.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, take
thanks.
care. So we're almost at time anyway, and I'm really almost to the end of this. I wanted to say the recording and capturing is difficult, but not difficult if you do this. We'll just start here. The script is the most important part. So when I say script, it can be something that looks like a screenplay. It could be something as simple as just a one-page document that has all of the things that you want to see happen alongside any of the words that might go along with it. So I'll send some examples of 2-column scripts and also screenplays. But just to give you an example, this is, when I say scripts, I kind of mean that this is fine as a script. Like this. This is actually a podcast script, but I actually adapted my podcast scripts from video scripts. So like the stuff that's in bold, and then the stuff that's in bold is a command. The stuff that's italicized is the name of the asset that I will make. Like this can be a wish list, it can be anything, but like having a plan at first really helps set your shooting schedule, right? Another script can look like this. Like imagine this is a podcast script too, but imagine on the left side could be what we're seeing on screen. The left side could be video, so it could be like shot, like shot of the outside of a house. Audio is Ninth Wonder music that fades up as the camera zooms in. Sort of a textual representation of a storyboard. I'm a terrible drawer. Like I'm actually really embarrassed about how bad I am at drawing, so I don't draw. Like I instead write it all out because I love reading and I think I can write okay too. Um, so in general, if you I want you to let me know what you think. Like if you're gonna plan out if you're writing a script, uh, do you see that like if you basically arrange it in your head first, it can change, but do you see the benefits of how that might like turn into something like a shot list? Like if you know what the story's supposed to be, you can then go back and it's like kind of like a puzzle with yourself. You write out this is it. This is my workflow. I usually write out the story I want to tell, and then I kind of adapt it to what it would be like as a screenplay. Has anybody seen the movie Camp X-Ray by chance? With Kristen Stewart about Guantanamo Bay. Okay, my friend since I was 6 made that movie a few years ago. It's crazy. So like that he knows Kristen Stewart is also weird. But like he sent me the whole process, and it was basically his name's Pete. He wrote a story. He wrote this like nightmarish story about a woman who is from like a Midwestern town. We were both from Indiana, who like has some complicated relationships with her family, has some complicated relationships with politics, and like wants to join the military. And this was around the time that Guantanamo Bay was like a bunch of documents, a bunch of WikiLeaks documents were coming out, and Pete couldn't believe the stuff that we were doing down there. So he was like, "What happens if like an idealistic abused woman from the Midwest ended up in Guantanamo? What would the ramifications be? How can this be a personal story?" And he wrote this really wonderful short story that he then went back and added all the pictures he saw in his brain to the story to then create the shot list. And then he added all the movements and music that he was thinking about too. And it turned into a 2.5 hour long movie. For your script, it can be 2-3 pages. It doesn't have to have any audio at all. It can be all music based, it could be all visual based, but having it laid out helps you organize your thoughts. And just like any other list, like, going to the grocery store with a shopping list, even if you're hungry, makes that trip faster and like less overwhelming. I get super paranoid I'm going to forget stuff unless I write it down. And I think I learned that from being a media librarian. So, so to kind of go over what we've already talked about and to kind of wrap it up too, in an hour, in a mixed audience, it is really, really hard to tell you how you should make your video. But I can tell you the following. You have the tools, you have collaborators, okay? I have resources to send you to help you figure out what it is you want to do. But the point is that you have to have an idea and you have to plan that idea before any of this stuff even comes into play. The writing is crazily at the heart of every media project. A band, unless it's a jazz band or unless it's a improv noise band, doesn't go into the studio without a plan. They have a plan, or they make one, or they spend tons and tons of money and hours doing it, right, to get their music ready. You sitting down to write a paper, it's not the actual typing that you hate. It's the prep, right? Like I was a really good procrastinator. Like I was so good at it. I like lived and died by procrastinating when I was an undergrad and a grad student. It wasn't that I couldn't type. I was really good at that part. I just didn't want it to come out of me. I just didn't want to do the hard work. And unfortunately, that's the same hard work you have to do in order to make the videos happen. But if you can get it written down, then it becomes super fun. It is basically like writing a recipe for yourself. Now, given that I am a bakery co-owner, I think recipes are awesome. But like, I also think that like it's just a way to focus your attention, and you're going to learn from yourself. You're basically copying a version of something that you like and then iterating upon it as you make the video. And so while there are plenty of technical things that you need to learn, I don't think I need to teach you those things. I think that you can find the resources that work for you, and I can happily lead you to them. But what I can encourage you to do is just to do it. Like, I think that just getting it done with stuff that you have is totally possible. Okay. Um, and but that said, I also want you to come to me with technical questions. Like, I'm happy to teach you anything that you want to know, and I'm happy to meet with you one on one, or set you up with other people to do it too. But in a group setting, for years I've been trying to come up with, like, what do I say when someone asks me to do a video workshop? And I've realized that with it and any other media, it's like, you got to write it. Like, it has to be written, even if it's an abstract. Even if the one sentence you write is, I'm going to record everything I see one day. I'm just gonna record everything I see, and then I'm going to choose 10 minutes of it randomly and string it together in iMovie with my favorite Kraftwerk song underneath it. That's a perfect script. That is awesome. That's gonna be a great movie. And in fact, I hope one of you makes it. But like, and I'll watch it, especially if it's like, if it's the remix of Autobahn that came out in '92. I would love to hear that. I think that'd be great. So but it can also be super it can be super descriptive too. But like, that's the part that I can't help you with. I can't help you with the want to do it or the idea that comes with it. The initial idea can totally help you flesh out the idea, can help you write the script, and I can send you a bunch of resources to make that happen too. I'll be quite frank, I don't like showing people tools because I think it scares people. I think it's, for me, I can put my hands on it and just start playing around and see that I'm not going to break anything. And you should know that too. In the world of digital editing, you're not going to break anything. Like, your files are going to remain. Like, they go into another place. You can manipulate them all you want, and the original ones will still stay there. Not sure about that. If that's the Zoom video that shows up on your computer or not. Like, if it's in the cloud, it's gonna be there forever. But like, but yeah. But seriously, so I often feel like an imposter when I come to these, because I'm just going to tell you all these things that you've been hearing in other classes. But the truth is, it's real. So the prep is what takes the most, and we can, the tech part, so easy, and I'd be happy to help you with it. So in the last couple minutes, I just want to, I don't need your assurance, although I'd love to have it, that you learned something, but I'd love to know what you would like to do further. And I want to remind Scott that, like, if I can get the emails, I'll happily just send the list of resources to Scott and the team, and they'll share it with everybody, including this video. But if any of you want to contact me directly, you can. But does anyone have any questions or concerns or comments right now? Or anytime?
Let
Do you all
me
know
add a couple of things while you're thinking of questions. So I know, I think it's great that Jason focused so much on the idea of script, because it's similar to what I do in my class often, right? Of, you need to always have a kind of a guiding narrative. So even though, right, you're all going to be presenting a short video, on your skill, and you even have, if you go on the website, right, it even has some kind of questions to think about, finding out how you're going to kind of connect that all together, right? Put the pieces together, right? So yes, there's going to be some demonstration component. There's going to be some talking component. We all know that. But what actually makes something more powerful and more impactful, right, is how you think about you're going to do that, right? So there's, like he said, there's going to be some things about, like, whatever your skill is, so if you're doing knitting, how are you going to do that in a way that, right, you're probably going to be indoors, unless you really want to knit outdoors, and maybe that's fun. But right, like, thinking those things. But if you think about those questions before you get to the point of pulling out your phone and recording, it's going to be, like you said, a lot less frustrating. And also, you're not going to have to redo it. You're not going to have to, pause and say, wait, is this the right thing to do? You're going to think about, how, again, questions of audio, it might be easy to just, again, put a phone right next to you, and then have, if you have a friend who's really good, who can hold a stable hand, have them record, or even better, a simple tripod can do wonders. And the one thing I'll say, just from my own experience, because I've done very little of the editing, I have a partner who's a musician who helps me with all that. But in the recording stage, I've heard from some people that there's sometimes a danger, right, of using a script because it seems like robotic, right? Like you like reading from a script. You can write into a script what seems to be spontaneity, right? Or even planned spontaneity. So like, when I'm recording something, those times I've literally written in word for word, like a joke you're going to make, right? Or something that seems like you're being completely spontaneous, but you actually planned it out to be spontaneous. And that's like, if you've ever seen any reality TV show, that's what all of that is, right? Like, you think it's like, oh, just catching people in the moment. It's all scripted out, it's all mapped out, it's all planned. And that's what makes it more appealing. Because if it was purely random, it'd be boring, right? It'd be like our own lives where, like, so there's moments where you're awkward, and then there's moments where people are talking, and then there's moments where 5 people are talking, and then nobody's talking. And so having that structure, and, you know, as Jason said, it can be as simple as just like an outline map of, we're going to do this, you know, I'm going to be doing this first, then this, then I want to demonstrate the skill, then I want to wrap up and say this. Here's how I'm going to, you know, but the more details you add for your own sake, and it is for your own sake, the more it just goes smooth when you actually go to do it. So just some kind of things to think about. I did want to leave, I know, just over 4. I don't know if Jason have to run, but if you have a few, you know, questions before we wrap up, I'm sure you'll be happy to take a couple questions here.
Definitely. And Scott, thank you for saying those things too. Yeah, just to get, I'm glad that you brought it back to what you've actually asked them to do. But like, even having looked at this, like, you know, a dancing video, you know, like, that's awesome. You know, you can already see how that's going to go. Knitting, it might be different, but like, imagine how I mean, knitting is really pretty, you know, and like focusing in on the tools, and like maybe figuring out how to use your phone to get like a close up of what your hands are actually doing, and then writing something that sounds maybe a little bit like a podcast that can like just lay over that would be, you know, or even just the sounds of the needles, like really close up sounds, like all those things are inherent when you think about how to take that stuff apart. Yoga is all about movement, right? Yoga is all about movement and color, and sometimes outside and inside. Sometimes it's music. What does meditation sound like in someone's head? Like, but yes, the point about the robotic script is so well taken. Like, I say this out loud to classes all the time, and to me, it's like, yeah, if I have a script, I can make it. I'm comfortable that I can do what I want with it. Like, a script is my guide, right? But it doesn't mean that it's taking my personality away. It will help you. It's helping you. It's like the research you do before a research paper. You're not just going to rewrite the paper that you're quoting, right? You're just going to use a little bit of that to guide you into what your thoughts are. Your script can be that, or if you really want it to be, it can be super duper detailed, like Scott said, which means that you'll just have all your moves laid out for you, which makes the end result easier. Hard part about talking about this too is that it's subjective. Like, talking about, like, encouraging people to be subjective is like, people want black and white answers, and sometimes they just aren't there. The answer really is, if you try really hard and you are supporting, like, you put out something that means something to you, chances are it's going to mean something to somebody else. You do have some things to hit with this assignment, but you can do that and still be subjective and still use a script to guide you. I love talking about this stuff.
Any last questions for Jason? If not, Kurosh, I think you have a quick little form just so they can get names and IDs, and I can use that to track and get the emails, which I think I already have mostly anyway, so to send over to you, Jason, so that you can kind of get everybody who is here. And then he can show out, again, all the tools that he mentioned, LinkedIn Learning. I think, you know, the LinkedIn Learning tip I think he gave us is great. I've used something similar with TED Talks does that now, where you can literally go to the transcript and search for, so you don't have to sit through a 20-minute video to get the 30 seconds you actually want. You can just jump right to it. So then, you know, you don't really have to invest, you know, hours and hours to do, you know, editing a video. And, you know, I think his point as well of, you know, once you got the first, like, the asset of the recording, you know, as long as you keep that file separate and bring it in, you can play around with things. It doesn't have to be, you know, super complex. This is not something you need to spend, you know, hours and hours worth of work on. The tools we have now make things pretty quick. And I know that because I'll sit there and watching my partner do it on iMovie with certain little things. And, you know, it can be done. Things that I have colleagues who are like, wow, thank you for editing that for us. I'm like, yeah, Bridget did that. It took 5 minutes. You know, it took 3 minutes of her time. And yeah, she is more polished than probably we are, but it, you know, those things were not that hard like they were even 10 years ago and 20 years ago. And that's a nice thing. And so, you know, using just the basic tips he had, I think, you know, you can go as deep as you want, but, this is not something that I think, is going to be overly taxing. Hopefully not.
Yeah, and I'm afraid of. I never wanted, like, I would never want to be labeled like as any kind of tech bro at all. Like, I think it's important to tell stories with what you have around you. But real quick, Scott, thank you for bringing that up too. I always forget about this. When I was 14 making my first record, I made it on cassette. And when you're playing guitar on cassette and you mess up, you had to stop, rewind, play it again. You couldn't just like cut it and start again. That is not the world in which you live. So set up the camera, just let it record. Like, you can edit out the mistakes later. Set up the audio recorder and just go. If you make a mistake, stop, pause, start again from the sentence that you left off in. You can so easily move clips around and delete things that, like, worrying about the technical, like, I don't even know why this would be something that anyone between the ages of 18 and 22 would worry about, but I think it's because old people like me have somehow infected you into thinking that you have to do things in one take. Also, we're mostly used to live performance, right? Like, you're giving presentations in class and you have to do it right that first time. Cool thing about digital editing is you don't have to do it right the first time. You can do it right in segments over 9 times and make those things work together. So the anxiety that comes along with performance, presentations and stuff, it doesn't have to be there. Okay, that's hard to learn. It really is. But like Scott makes a good point. Like, you can polish something pretty quickly if you just let the camera go.
Well, thank you again, Jason, and thank you all for joining. Hopefully this is helpful. And again, the following tools we'll be sending as well. And thank you, Kurosh and Gayathri, for all the help you've done, not just behind the scenes, but in front of the scenes as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So have a good rest of your Friday, and you know how to get a hold of us.
Yeah, and I'll see you all in email soon. Please feel free to contact me with any questions or comments, even if you just want a second set of eyes on something. I would love to see what you're doing. Okay? All right. Hopefully I'll see you all soon. Thank you all so much.
Yep. Thanks,
Thank
Jason.
you.
I'm just going to keep waving till everybody's gone.